College is a wild ride for young adults, and their mental health often suffers. This podcast addresses the inner battles many college students struggle with. You're listening to Normalize It Forward, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about young people's biggest mental health problems, how to handle them, and how to achieve a more resilient mind. Time to get rid of those heavy burdens and focus more on self-love and care. Here is your host, Mark Lehman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Normalize It Forward. My name is Mark Lehman, and we are here today to talk about mental health and wellness. I'm super excited today to be joined by Brian Keiser. Brian we'll get into it in a bit, but Brian is one of my clinicians from You Are Heard, amongst many other things that he does. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Brian's got lots of experience, over 20 years in higher ed, serving in various roles at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, Yale University, University of Bridgeport, and currently at the Connecticut State Community College. He's spent the majority of his career in academic advising with a specific focus on STEM education. He also has 10 years of experience teaching psychology. Brian holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Communication Studies and a Master's of Arts in Ed Psychology from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. His PhD studies were interrupted by the pandemic, during which time he was conducting research at Yale New Haven Children's Hospital in partnership with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Outside of that, Brian enjoys running along the ocean and biking. He also hosts two podcasts himself, Pathfinders through the Connecticut State, and a personal podcast, Beach Chair Chats, both of which are available on Spotify and Substack. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to be here today.
Well, I appreciate that, Mark. I feel like I have an accomplished career right now after reading it here and all that, but yeah.
Makes you feel good, right?
It does,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Except for the running part, 'cause I'm currently injured. So, you brought up two traumatic things, my PhD getting killed by COVID and then plantar fasciitis in my foot. So,
Oh no.
perfect time for mental health talks today. I appreciate
That's why
it.
you get one of these, Brian. I get the same thing going on. The ice pack, the foot, the
I
whole,
need something,
right?
yes.
Yeah, exactly. But man, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully that heals up for you soon. I know you enjoy your runs. And by the way, if you haven't seen them online, Brian takes some amazing photos on his runs and certainly enjoy those as well. Brian, where to jump in? My goodness. Let's start with your work at the school you're at currently, Connecticut State Community College. Tell us a little bit about your role there.
Yeah, so I am a guided pathways advisor to, or it's like the associate director. I call it quarterback to the director and the backup. And, I work with students from all ages that come straight out of high school, that all the way to 65 plus, lifelong learners, part-time students here for a couple semesters, here to get an associate's, here to wherever they want to go. And I work with STEM students predominantly. You got to have no STEM background. So if you ask me to do anything about engineering or bio, I'm not your guy. So Calc 2, Calc 1, I'm here to help counsel you through that, why it's incredibly hard. But I've been working with it, and we offer a free tuition here at CT State, and it's a great benefit for lots of our students to have an education where they can kind of figure this out and see where they want to go for a really affordable price of $0. It's not a shameless marketing promo for this, but it's great for the students. It's great for the families and the communities. But you get a lot of students, that come in here with the ambitions to do awesome things. This is helping them get on the right track and see where it takes them. So that's a lot of the work that I do.
That's awesome. And I imagine, as I referenced before, Brian, you've been doing work with my business, You Are Heard, for a while now, and you see students, really all over the country supporting them with various things. I guess that's a good lead in to ask, the topic of self-care comes up a lot, and sort of how, as we were talking before about your running, how a person helps themselves and manages their daily stress level. What does self-care mean to Brian?
Yeah, self-care, it's, we do this work. You've been doing this for a long time as well. And when you work with people and you help people, you take on all their stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's a tough job. Some days you get a student that's really easy to work with, but then, I'm during finals week right now. This is the time of the year where we get a lot of the heavy. And even with the work that I do with You Are Heard as well, and students go through a lot. And a lot of times they don't tell you that until it's sometimes too late,
Mhm.
and we're here to fix it. And so you take a lot of that energy, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and sometimes it depletes you, even in this profession, the helping profession that we are. So self care is important. Otherwise, you get burned out. I feel it in higher ed all the time. Is at this time of the year when we have the faculty send off and they go off for the summer. We're still here for the summer. And so trying to maintain the notion of just doing the things that you love to do, getting outside for me, going for running or getting on a bike, sitting by the beach, hence the Beach Share Chats podcast, another promo for that. But it's the things that make you happy that you have to maintain. And I give that same message to my students too, because I have a lot of them that want to go in this field. They want to be therapists, they want to be doctors and nurses. And it's the same concept when you're trying to help people. Every time you give yourself to somebody in that way, your time, it takes a little bit from you. And if you don't practice the self care part, you will lose it after a while, and then you kinda get that burnout feeling.
It's a great answer, Brian. I think, you made me think, why is that so hard for so many? And I think that, for many individuals, including myself, we were brought up in a way of like, that's selfish, to go ahead and take care of yourself in that manner. That's selfish. And I've learned professionally over the years, it's actually necessary,
Mm,
in order to maintain. Because as you said, both you and I have been in this field for a long time. I've known many people that have burnt out and left the field.
mhm,
And, I think for me, I use exercise as well as a way to manage my own self-care. And it really allows me to kind of free up, some of those things that we hear. Let's face it, we hear a lot of stuff, right?
mhm, we
Throughout the
do.
day. And that can be big time challenging. So self-care is a big one. And I think for many, it's not just soothing stress, but it's also, eating well and getting good sleep, which I
Mhm.
find I don't know what you see, Brian, but
Good
I
sleep,
find I mean, I find my students don't do very well. Do you
yeah.
hear about that a lot?
Well, students, they lay off the convenience of food, right? We talk about eating well, and there's, like, this sense of, like, I might go on a tangent here of the convenience of, like, fast food or DoorDash, right?
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
effort
Yeah.
put into cooking food, right? I'm a firm fan. I'm gonna go on, if you don't mind me going on a tangent here.
That's okay, yeah.
The notion of, like, creating something, it's like making your own food, it stimulates your mind in a way that's fulfilling,
Yep.
and so when you take things away in the convenience, like, I'm just gonna order not only Chipotle, I could go to Chipotle and get it, right? Or I
Mhm.
could have them delivered to me for twice as much money,
Mhm.
and I don't have to do anything, right? And it's convenient, but it takes away that sense of, just stimulating the mind of doing something from start to finish.
Mhm.
And so eating well is important, but it's also just the idea of creating food,
Mhm.
a dinner or whatever you do with it, because you accomplish something. Sleep, yes. I didn't sleep well last night, but it's commonplace for me nowadays. If I get 5.5 hours to 6 hours, I can function. But sleep's
Mhm.
important. A lot of times students will stay up late at night. They'll be up on their phones, they'll be up gaming, and they get on the old blue screens and they can't settle their mind down and they get up tired the next day and they don't get enough sleep or they sleep until noon or something crazy like that, which I hear that. I'm like, how? Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Mhm.
I'm up like 7 hours prior to that. And so, it's the basics. I teach that to my students. I go, if you sleep, you eat well, you drink water, hydrate, the basics so you can function. Otherwise, you can't take care of your mind. Your mind won't do what you want it to do because it's just revolting because it's just mad. Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Those fundamentals are important, and, I find most of my students are good at 1 or 2 of them, they're not good at all of them. So they usually neglect something, and, I think it's important. My audience is made up of young adults and their parents. So real important for parents to recognize, hey, these are things that they have opportunity to shift and change, if they want to be drinking, on a regular basis and get hydrated and take care of that part. It's not hard, and it's just a matter of choice and recognizing like that's going to have a positive impact on me.
and that's not
Um,
hydrating with Monster energy drinks, by the way. It's not a shout out for Monster, but they,
that's right.
the health of that too is cardiovascular health too. But if you chugging Monster drinks to stay awake, it's just gonna make you more tired. I see it
Yeah.
all the time. Like, I'm
Oh
tired,
yeah.
I'm tired. I mean, you just had 3 Monster drinks, your heart's probably gonna stop, and it's overtaxed, and now you're tired. So,
Yeah.
it's just basic
The
things.
the simplicity of water, right? It's like, man, that'll take good care of you if you allow it to. But you're right. I mean, there's some of the garbage I have patients even coming into my office with drinking. I'm
Mhm.
shocked at. No surprise to you, Brian, but the mental health of students, I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years is sort of moving in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
And, anxieties are up, depression's up. Certainly post COVID, we've seen those numbers. And I guess I'm curious. I mean, there's no one particular reason, but I'm curious from your point of view, what are the contributing factors?
Well, I just read a book. I'm not saying it's this end all be all of sources of anxiety for young people, but the Anxious Generation book by Jonathan Haidt.
I love it. Love
Yeah,
it. Great book.
it's a great element of anxiety. It's one aspect of it. I wanna say it's like, this is it. So I'm not gonna say social media is horrible and cell phones are bad, but there is that. Since
Oh, yeah.
COVID, I always find the online thing is like there's people are starved for a connection, but they're incredibly lonely still. And they've been online this whole time since 2020 and COVID, and they're overconsumed by text. They can't have conversations. I mean, I'll say hi to students in the hallway when they're like have the headphones on and clinging to the wall, looking to the depths of the abyss and not making eye contact. And I'll say hello to them and like completely go through a shock. And it's alarming because we had this book discussion at school for this about the same book, and they can't solve problems because, I mean, they have artificial intelligence now to do it for them. They can't cope because they might turn to ChatGPT for therapy. It happens. It's terrifying that they do, but they're stuck online because that's where everything is. In another book that I read too, Dopamine Nation, if you've read that one,
Another good book. Yeah.
actually great book, and it talks about the stimulus. They're overstimulated by the online that they need it, and they can't live without it.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I'll walk out of my office and I'll have, 10 students sitting in here all on their phones, and I walked in a hall, all on the phones. And it's just like they don't talk. And so they having actual human conversation is one aspect of it from being online so much. And I give props to parents who can keep their kids off of that for as long as they possibly can. It's a huge challenge for parents today because there is the pressure to say, I want to be on Instagram, mom and dad. I want to be on this. I give Australia credit and banned it till 18. Go
Mhm.
Australia. Because it is, they're not ready for it at the very young age. And they come, I'm not going to use addicted to it, but it is very much addictive in a
Absolutely.
way that outside of that, they can't actually have the basics of just what human conversation would be.
Mhm.
Right? Every part of the sensation from your mind to stimulate you from an actual conversation with a human being that you can't get on the phone. So I think being forced in situations makes them highly anxious for that. I mean, I give students have to do presentations and they just panic. Like you just
Yeah.
have to talk about yourself. This is not the hardest thing to do, but it's just a fear of being looked at, being judged, being this. Social media creates a concept of a like and having followers. It almost embeds this narcissistic tendency that we have in followers. And if
Mhm.
we're not liked, we're not acceptable and have to be something you're not. And so that's just one aspect of it too. But there's a lot. There's a lot of things that make those kids anxious nowadays.
It's a big one. It's a big one. Boy, you made me think of like 10 different things, but it's a big one, Brian. And I think, for me, when I'm going through intakes and I'm asking questions around obsessiveness, I'm a little shocked as a therapist how many young adults obsess about the interactions they had with other
Mm.
peers. You
Yeah.
know, did I stick my foot in my mouth? How did they think I was? Did they like me?
Mhm.
Did they? And I think a big part of the reason that's become such kind of a common obsessive notion with young adults is they don't have that framework where they
Mhm.
haven't done this, they haven't had direct
Mhm.
conversation so often. Another thing you made me think about, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is I feel like this is becoming commonplace. I came across a young adult a few months ago and we were looking at her phone together and, her use. And she was using TikTok on average 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
And then we looked at Snapchat and that was another 10. And this kid had a pretty extended full time job
Mhm.
just with social media
Yeah.
every week. And so I looked at it and I asked her mom, she was 13, by the way. And I asked her mom, and her mom had relatively no idea she was on it that much. And I feel like those numbers might be high, but I feel like there's a lot of kids out there that are spending that kind of time on
Yeah.
social media. And you got to figure that's 50 to 60 hours of time that they're not
Mhm.
socializing.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that too is you talk about the parents not being aware. There is a huge thing, parents nowadays, it's not the old days, right? Where either mom stayed home or there was a parent home or dad was there. I mean, I was fortunate to grow up with my mom there at the home, and I grew up on a farm. He was
Mhm.
there. So I had my parents there, but now you have parents who have to work, both of them have to work,
Yep.
one or two jobs, or they give the kids the devices early, right? I see young kids from a developmental psychologist's brain. I see very small children with these devices that they really aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
And being locked into that and kinda getting addicted to it so soon, they can't break out of it. I've seen students go through withdrawals. I say, "Give your phone away for 3 days." I go, "I had a craving for it. I had this." And it's the same thing. But parents, it's never gonna be a shame on parents. I'll never shame a parent. Understand the world we live in and having that stuff, but it's a hard look at keeping kids outside, even K through 12. Working in higher ed, I see students come out of high school not ready for it. I look at the K through 12 system, you're plugging Chromebooks in front of kids' faces at a very early age. You're doing everything online at a very early age. You
Yeah.
get teachers in kindergarten who can't even take their kids outside to play anymore. They have to do assessments and tests. It's changing the landscape, and I think you're putting a lot of pressure on the innocence of just growing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll even say this too. You talk about stress and mental health. I'll give a story. I was talked to a mom 2 weeks ago, and she was trying to get her daughter into, like, a Calc 2 class over the summer, or Calc 1 and Calc 2, and she goes, "I wanna do this so she can go to a four-year school and have it ready to go," and she goes, "She's 16." I go, "Hold on a second." I said, "Pump the brakes."
Mm.
I go, "She's 16 years old." I go, "But I want her to get ahead." I go, "Is she here right now?" I go, "Is she making this decision?" I go, "As a parent," I almost told her, I go, "You should go watch 16 Candles again
Yeah.
and remember what it is to be a 16-year-old girl, and you're not wanting to take Calc 2," and it's like and there's a pressure, right? Even for kids
Mm.
to be anxious to do and achieve so much. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of things there that cause that pressure for kids.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the messaging there is, let your kid be a kid,
Mhm.
and I think that the intensity as parents, we feel like we're helping when we're doing that, but we're creating a lot of pressure.
Yeah, talk to your kids,
Um,
read to your kids, don't give them
yeah,
devices until they're ready for it.
yeah, and you know what? Maybe when they do have devices, maybe some tech-free time,
Mhm.
maybe it's, they're doing it already in schools, perhaps at dinner, maybe just some hours in the afternoon, evening, some tech-free time, so it forces them,
Mhm.
to be looking at we'll call it old school things, right, Brad? You know?
Yep. Yep, no phones
Uh,
at the dinner table. I mean,
that's right.
they do have screen timers you can put on phones, a
Oh,
limit
yeah.
on, like, the Instagram use, and you can cut it off, so you just have to keep turning the timer off to go back on it, so there are things like that can be done. This is reinforcing that so they don't
Yeah.
get addicted to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, I'm curious, in the topic of wellness, just general wellness, I know academically, one of the things that we see a lot of is kids having or even adults having a difficult time with time management. I'm curious your thoughts on that topic.
It's a fun one because I hear it all the time. It's like, "I can't manage my time. I get distracted.
Yeah.
I just procrastinate." And I said, "Is it really that?" And so I asked them this question. I always have them sit in my office, and I pull out my cell phone, and I had a game controller in here for the longest time from my son that I confiscated.
Mm.
And I pull these things out. I go, "When you're trying to learn, is your cell phone out?" "Yeah." So you're spending 20 minutes on this, and then you get a text, and then you go down a rabbit hole of TikTok, which I always find funny because clocks make the sound of TikTok, which I always point at the clock behind me. It's fascinating. And you go down a rabbit hole, right? And all of a sudden you spend 20 minutes, and all of a sudden you're learning to being disrupted, right? It's like if you watch a movie and you scroll Instagram during a movie, you look up, it's like 15 minutes have passed. You rewind the movie. You can't do that with studying. You can't do
Right.
that with learning. And so, like, the information processing model of cognitive development, if you're disrupting the process from short term to encoding to sensory inputs to the long term, you're never going to retain it.
Yeah.
And so, anytime that they get disrupted, so I would say it's not about time management, it's about choice. of what you use your time for. And so if you're spending time not being focused or using devices that are near you or studying online and all of a sudden your chats pop up or you have a game device on another platform while you're trying to learn, you're never going to retain the information. So it's not always about time management. It's an easy crutch to go to. It's a choice of where they spend their time is what I see, that they don't choose it right or they choose poorly. It's like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade line where he goes into the temple and picked the wrong chalice and chose poorly. Those who follow
Mhm.
movie references, they do a lot of
I
that. So you might get it, but
I
others
did,
may
I
not.
did. Yeah. It's a great point, Brian. It's a great point. I think, that choice concept of, and I like giving kids, that opportunity to say, "Hey, you can make an alternative choice."
Mhm.
You don't have to, when kids say, "Oh, I learn better when I have music on," or "I learn better when I'm," it's like, hold on a second. Nobody does, right?
No.
So I think your point's a really good one. And I think for parents, helpful to get kids in that zone because our tech
Mhm.
is like so around us all the time that if they're choosing to not turn them off or they're choosing to not minimize certain things, and they're choosing to be distracted, right?
Yeah. It's a
And that'll
choice.
take yeah, and that'll take an hours of worth of work and turn it into 2 or 3 pretty easily.
Well, I always say too, when I get students who end up on probation, there's two reasons why you end up on probation. There's controllable factors and uncontrollable factors,
Mhm,
right? You could be in the best intention to be a student and life happens. You could get sick. You could lose your housing. Somebody else in your family could pass away. You could lose a job. Uncontrollable things. You don't see it coming, but they happen, right? It
mhm,
disrupts your education because you have to shift your focus. But the controllable things, those are harder to break because they're behaviors,
mhm,
right? If I'm gaming 8 hours a day, I've seen that happen. The outcome is going to be what it is because time is gone. And so those are behavioral changes that are hard to fix because if they're like, I'm going to watch Netflix and binge, the new series that came out, all episodes in one day when finals are
mhm,
next week. That's a choice, right?
mhm.
I gave another story. Again, I have lots of stories, 20 years of doing this. And I had a student at the University of Nebraska, and it was interesting because he was on the DJ club, and he was some farm kid. It didn't match, but whatever. He was on the
Uh-huh,
DJ club, right?
uh-huh,
And he wasn't academically not doing well. And he goes up to me and he's like, "Well, we have this event off campus. I really want to go to." It's like, "Well, you have two choices. We can go to the event, DJ your heart out, go take your finals and see how it goes, right? Or you go skip the event and take a chance, right?" He
yep,
chose to go to the event. I said, "If you go to the event, you fail out, you'll never be a student. You can't go to any more DJ club events because you won't be a student here." And he chose to go to the event and he failed.
hmm,
And so I think a lot of times they prioritize like what is it? So college students have a tough time trying to balance. Like there's a social part and then there's the academic part, right?
yeah,
I think a lot of students are anxious. This goes back to environments that they come out of in high school or parenting environments. If you get a kid that comes out of an environment with very authoritarian parents, like rules, 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 you do this, and the shackles come off and you go to school, they're gonna have a field day.
yeah, yeah,
And so there's parenting is important, and I feel and the funny thing with that kid, he went to an event called Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows, and so if you know the references in that, sadly, our counseling department at the school did not, and I said, "You should probably call the faculty advisor and say, you should probably have an eye on this event. It's off campus, and I know what the headlines would be in the paper." Um, but yeah, you see it, and they face choices all the time, and I just feel like it's about time, but it's also what's important to them. There's so many factors that lead to students making the choices that they do, and it's just hard to pin it on one thing that
yeah.
says that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, thinking about the parent who's sending their kid to college this fall, and, you and I have been around college students for a long time, but many parents haven't, and they don't necessarily know what to expect. And then maybe, who knows, maybe they hear me do a presentation or you do a presentation and they hear these stats, these mental health stats,
Mhm,
which let's face it, are kind of ugly. One stat that sticks out is 1 in 9 kids, they have ideation, suicidal
mhm.
ideations, which, no one wants to talk about. But that is a national stat, and it's an indicator of like how stressed kids really become on campus. So Brian, let me put you on the spot. What do you say to a parent like that who's worried about their child's mental health when they go to school? What are some things that they should be looking for and maybe even doing?
Well, I think and there's a lot of things when it comes to ideation with students and, the seriousness of it. And then there's that passive ideation that students face too when it comes down to this and they feel a certain way and they start to do this. But for parents, obviously one, know the resources. You
Mhm,
know, I think the lead up to college is really having those conversations, but practicing independence for their kids,
mhm,
letting them make decisions. Don't do it all for them because
mhm,
the more you do for them, the more they can't figure out on their own. And if they don't succeed or fail, it's it puts a lot of pressure on them. I mean, because I have
mhm,
another story. Here we go. Right. I was at the student at the University of Nebraska, same thing. And the student says, "My dad wants to talk to you." I'm like, "All right, well, FERPA. I mean, I can't until you sign a consent."
mhm.
And he goes, "Okay, but he has a nickname." And he goes, "His nickname at work is called the Nigerian Nightmare." It's like, "That sounds fun."
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. So the
Yeah.
kid leaves. 15 minutes later, dad calls. He's like, "What did my son do? Why did he fail? Why did he mess up? What's his problem?" I'm gonna stop right there. I said, "He already knows that he messed up. Like, your job as a parent is to support him, be there for them, help them understand these difficult circumstances and guide them through that instead of shaming them." This is like that Erickson's, shame versus initiative versus, shame and doubt, right? If you don't foster initiative and just foster shame and doubt from a young age, they're gonna carry that with them. And
Mhm,
so I had to remind him, like, you need to be a dad and
mhm,
parent him and help him, support him, and tell him he's got this. And I think there's that pressure that a lot of students have with ideation and feeling that, like, if I don't get this, I fail life. It just go to the extreme.
yep,
And how do parents handle it? I think a lot of it starts in the beginning, but when you're at college and you haven't done it to this point, it's like almost too late. But
mhm,
it's not too late. And giving them the ability to be independent, support them on their journey. Don't check their grades. Don't pressure them. Just let them be. And then
mhm,
and they might actually find their way if they feel like they have the ability to thrive versus if I fail, well, life's gonna go really bad for me, right?
mm,
Or I'm gonna get in trouble, or dad's gonna be mad at me, mom's gonna be mad at me, I'm getting kicked out of the house. And so there's a lot of that passive pressure that parents place on their kids that can lead them to say, "Well, I failed, now what? I give up." Now we're thinking to the ideation standpoint.
yeah, yeah. And it's tough, Brian, because I think, on some level, most parents realize that if a child fails, they've got opportunity there to use that failure in a positive
Mhm,
fashion and succeed. And you and I have seen that over and over and over again.
mm,
So I point that out to parents to say, look, if your child fails a class or your child gets put on probation or your child has an issue at school, it's an opportunity for change,
mhm.
right? Um,
Failure is a thing. It's just normal. It
yeah,
doesn't mean you're a failure. It
right.
just means you tried one thing, it didn't go well. You can just step back and assess it and try again. You can interview half the faculty on this campus or any campus, and I guarantee you most of them had failed something in their lifetime. I've had a professor of history I interviewed on my other podcast, and he failed out.
Yeah.
And he came back a couple years later, figured it out,
Yep.
and make it work. So,
It's a great point. That's a great point. I think if adults were really being honest, we've all got a story, at
oh,
least
yeah,
one,
every parent does. We just didn't have social media that documented it back in the day.
That's
We did a
right.
lot you probably did a lot of crazy, silly
Of
stuff in your
course.
20s
Yeah.
and formative developmental
Yeah.
years that it's not documented on social media, so
Thank goodness, Brian,
thank
right?
gosh, yeah.
But, yeah, absolutely, and I think it's important. I think humor's important. I think keeping things light. I think that, it's funny to me when a parent's sending a kid to college, and for some reason, they feel like they have to have it all figured out day
Mhm.
one, and it's like, boy, I don't know that I had it figured out on the last day, let
Yeah.
alone the first day, you know? So, one of the phrases I throw around a lot is there's a lot of learning that takes place in college outside of the classroom,
Mhm.
and, kids it's pretty hard, I think, for a kid to go to college for 4 years or longer and not grow tremendously,
Oh, yeah.
right? Right? So just some words to keep in mind, parents that are listening, and certainly kids that are listening
Mhm.
as well. Brian, one last thought I just wanna ask you. So you're
Okay.
talking directly to a student, you're talking directly to a parent.
Who
One piece of advice for each?
I say take it day to day, step by step, day by day, right?
Yeah,
Don't think about what 5 years looks like down the road. I always tell students, "You're never guaranteed tomorrow." If you had the book of life in front of you, it'd be kind of boring if you knew what's gonna happen to you today. If I knew it was gonna be on
absolutely.
this podcast, I'd be like, "Wow, this is kind of cool, I guess. I already know what's gonna happen." I guess you take it day by day, right? Make your choices, live up to them, learn from them, understand whether they feel right or wrong, and keep growing. Because I always tell students, like, if you know who you are at 18 and you start college, I guarantee you're going to change in 4 years.
Mhm,
And parents should also celebrate those changes.
mhm.
I think that's the hard part when students come home from college from a break and they're just a little bit different. They have a different viewpoint. Maybe their identity shifts, right? That's not what it was. They're figuring things out. And they might come home completely different. As a parent, embrace them, love
Yeah,
them, and celebrate who they're becoming versus what happened to you at that school, right? Embrace every step of it, embrace the learning aspect of it, give everything you can to it, show up, be present, be on time, get to know your faculty and teachers. We're not here to scare you, we're here to help you. And let the parents say, "Hey, go on a cruise, forget about it for a minute."
mhm,
You did your
mhm.
part, pat yourself on the back, and they're gonna be just fine.
I like that. I like that. Those are great suggestions. Want to highlight one thing you mentioned in there for kids to hear, and that is, staff on college campuses are here to help.
Mhm.
Liquid gold. Go back and see them, visit with them, office hours. You know it. Whatever's available to connect with them, do so. Because I think that a lot of kids, for lots of the reasons we've already mentioned, feel intimidated to do that. But listen to Brian. I mean, he's one of many that I've heard the same thing from over and over again. So please use them as resources. Once again, Brian, thank you so much for your time, your energy. Those of you that are interested in podcasts, check out Pathfinders, check out Beach Chair Chats, some good ones Brian's got out there both on Spotify and Substack. Thank you for your time, your energy, your know-how, and everything that you do, Brian. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Mark, I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too.
That's all for this episode of Normalize It Forward. May this conversation serve as a reminder that you are never alone in facing your mental health struggles. There are always people who can help. To dive even deeper into our journey of normalizing one of the biggest issues young people face, check out more episodes of the show at youareheard.com. It's UAREHEARD.com. Continue gaining access to the right tools, the best resources, and the most insightful advice to achieve positivity, mindfulness, and genuine happiness.